first thing we need to do, we need to make sure our solder paste which we are gonna use it dried, because normally this solder paste it has flux inside, so we need to make sure it is dried. So my solder paste it has flux inside, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take a bit of paste like that. I'm gonna take a tissue and I'm gonna press on the tissue and see it is absorbing the flux. Need to do few times, so we need to make sure it is properly dried. You can see this camera is not picking up. I will show you under the scope. Okay, so I am using Mechanic 6337B leaded solder paste for this reballing. I use same paste for every type of reballing or any IC. So next step is to align the stencil on the IC. One thing, you need to make sure your stencil is super clean, these holes. If there is any dust or anything stuck in these ones, you are gonna have problem to get proper results. Just like that, I filled that solder paste into the holes. Just gonna clean off, and I'm gonna hold this chip with my tweezer. Most 99% of the time I get, not 99, most of the time I get the same question from people: what is your temperature, what is your air flow? So normally that also always depend on the hot air, your hot air station, but this time I'm gonna disclose mine one. I'm using 300 degrees Celsius on my hot air station with zero air. I'm using as low as I can, as low as, hold on a minute, I think my hot air is not getting hot. Oh yeah, sorry, that was different hot air. Yeah, so yeah, what we need to do, we need to use lowest air, whatever setting is lowest. Mine one is 0 currently I'm using, and I'm using 300 Celsius on the temperature. I'm gonna start heating up the stencil from the far away. I'm not gonna go near to the IC. I'm just blowing it up from the far away. I'm really far from the IC. See, the flux is getting activated. Now I'm gonna go near. As soon as you can see the balls are formed, you can go near, and just for a minute and take out the stencil and just blow it again so they can go in place. Our reballing is done for this IC. Let me show you. See, nice beautiful balls. So what we can do, we are gonna clean these balls with the acetone. And see, we got all nice and even balls throughout the chip. So this is how we can reball the small chips. So let me show you now how we can reball the big chips like baseband CPU. This is a baseband CPU from iPhone 6. So let me show how we can reball that one as well, because most of the time some people they are okay to with the reballing of the small chips, but they are having some difficulty while they try to reball the big chips. So method is same for this chip as well. Just gonna clean off these pads. I'm just running over my soldering iron to the chip and collecting the solder from the chip. Just like that. That's clean. So for this type of reballing, what I do, I always use 3D stencils because they are much easy to get a line. Let me show you. This is my 3D stencil. So they are much easy to align the chip and to handle the chip as well. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna align my chip properly with the stencil. Make sure your chip is aligned properly with the stencil and stencil is sitting down properly. This hole is not good. Make sure your stencil is super clean, especially these holes. Yeah, that's aligned. You can see that's aligned. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna apply my solder paste. I'm using the same solder paste which I used for my touch IC because that is enough to reball this chip as well. I can reball a couple of more chips with this solder paste even. So make sure you apply evenly in all holes. So that's it. Clean off and hold that stencil like that. Again, same method. I'm gonna apply heat slowly, and I'm using my 0 air, and I'm using my heat from far away. As soon as my balls are formed, I'm gonna go near to the chip. You can see my balls are getting formed. To wait. As you can see, balls are formed already, but some of the balls like this one, this, they are not connected to the chip properly. These ones. So what we need to do, we need to apply a little bit of flux. We don't need to use too much flux over there, just little bit wherever the balls are not formed or connected, and we are gonna blow it again. Not using flux everywhere, just using only the balls which are not connected to the chip properly. Because that's what is very common with 3D stencils, because balls are really smaller, so sometimes it doesn't get connected properly to the chip. that has gone to the place. And this ball is still there, so we need to use, you won't get this thing all the time, but sometime you can, so you should know how to tackle with this type of situation as well, because this is an important skill. Even though you can see that ball is still there, this one, and see ball pop up. The reason why it popped up, because there was too much flux, so that was the reason why we observed the flux in the beginning. So I'm gonna put this one in the place. That's gone into place. So we need to make sure none of the ball is stuck in the stencil before taking off the chip from the stencil. How we're gonna do, slowly we're gonna pull this stencil and we're gonna see if anything gets stuck. You can see nothing is stuck in stencil, all bars are on the basement CPU. So I'm gonna flow again so everything can get into the place. You can see all balls, they are formed properly. So next step, what we are gonna do, we're gonna just clean off these balls as well with acetone. If you don't want, you don't need to, just use a bit of flux and use chip as it is on the board, but if you want, you can clean it off. You can see all of our balls, they are formed properly and evenly. There's no big or small ball, all they are same in size. So this is how we can reball the big chips as well. So this is not something which is difficult, this is all about technique. There's only 2-3 things you need to bear in mind. First thing is your solder paste which you are using, that has to be dried, so there shouldn't be too much flux inside. The second thing, your stencil has to be super clean, and third, you have to use low air and lowest heat even though possible. I am using 300 here and I'm using 0 air there. And most important thing, you need to observe while you are reballing. If any ball is popping up, so if that is popping up, you need to put it in the place. You don't need to, oh, I have to reball each and everything again. Now you can correct that one the way I did, because the sum of the ball, that is very common, not in small but in big chips, in basement CPU or CPUs, especially when you are using 3D stencils, they can get stuck into the stencil, because these, as you can see, these balls are a bit bigger in this one because we use normal stencil. These balls are a bit smaller because we use 3D stencil. The holes in 3D stencil, they are a bit smaller, so we need to make sure that stencil which we are using, that is super clean, and we are using proper technique. If the one ball is popping up, we can use that flux and we can put it back into the place, and that's how we can reball any chip. And I hope you guys will learn with this thing. That's the technique. There's nothing rocket science. So I will see you another time with another video. Take care. Bye bye.